On my watch, it is now 7 p.m. So I will convene this meeting of the District 9 Neighborhood Alliance. First item on the agenda is approval of our May minutes.
Move they be approved.
Pardon?
Move they be approved.
I haven't asked for that yet. Come on, Marilyn, wait a minute. You gotta let me go through my spiel first. I did send out the minutes with the announcement. I also have them printed on the back of the agenda that was on the sign-in table. I will now entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Thank you, Marilyn. Do I have a second? Thanks, Tom. All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? All those in favor of approving those minutes say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Treasurer's report, Bob Menke. Bob? Bob, Treasurer's report.
I'm having one of my hearing aids replaced. So I only have one, and I can't hear with a GD. So, anyhow.
Which year is it in?
Pardon me?
Which year is it in?
This is the treasurer's report for May 2017. We had one more member this month, a new non-voting member, which gave us a total of 15 non-voting and 16 voting. Our checkbook balance as of May 1st, 2017 was $1,692.36. We had $15 in income, 0 expense, which gives us a total checkbook balance at the end of May 28th at $1,707.36. If anybody has any questions, please give me a call or see me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And before we go on, I want to step back one item on the agenda and thank our secretary. I am always amazed at the job that Bill is able to put together with the minutes. And last time we had a candidate forum with two individuals that were vying for the council seat in the runoff election. And when I saw the minutes that Bill put together, I had to sit back and say, wow, damn, those are good. And I want to give Bill a hand.
Thank you. That's a great job.
He does.
So I got lifetime job, Mark?
Yeah, you can't, just like the treasurer and the president and our vice president. Where's Betty? Eventually we'll all die off and they'll have to replace us. All right, this evening we should be a very interesting speaker, and I have been following the news and some of the both on TV and in the newspaper, and some comments that I've heard about the master plan, some good, some bad, some confused, and I certainly was very, very interested in trying to hear it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to the public sessions that they've had, the city has had, and the land office, but I thought that most of us would really like to hear at this level from someone that knows what's going on and what's proposed, and be able to ask some of our questions. And hopefully they'll be very genteel questions that Becky will be able to field.
I guess I'm not allowed to ask questions.
That's right. I won't call on you. I printed Becky's bio with a nice little picture. I think you're actually much better looking in your picture.
Oh, that's right.
But she's got a varied background, and I was really surprised that, and hopefully she'll talk to that a little bit, about the way this organization has developed and turned over. I think if you understand, and I'm not sure that I understand it completely, but what the city and the land office have tried to do with establishing a nonprofit that could bring in funding from the private sector, the government can't do that. They can't go out and solicit funds. So they established the endowment organization that Becky is executive director for. And they then are going to have a very key role in, because even though there is state funding and there's city funding for this project, it's going to entail a lot of private capital, hopefully, as well. And so without further ado, like I said, I've printed copies of Becky's bio, so you all should have a copy of it. I'm not going to read it. I will introduce Becky and let her have the floor.
Thank you, Art. I appreciate
And
it.
let me see if I can get
Oh, very, thank you again for having me. I just live around the corner, and so it was nice of me to be able to leave a little bit early, kind of get changed and set up to come over here. I live just outside the city limits, and you can read about me. You'll see that most of my background is work with Baptists, so I've heard every type of political question you could possibly ask working for that kind of group, and then of course with the Alamo. And want to go ahead and give you a little bit of background about this. As Art said, the organization and the master plan organization is very unique. It's a very unique public-private partnership. So in 2015, on January 4th, Commissioner George P. Bush was instituted into the General Land Office, and one of his goals was to be able to try to find out if there's a possibility to do something for the Alamo. Jerry Patterson, his predecessor, had made good strides and had gotten some things started. The city had gotten some things started. But we all knew, and Commissioner Bush knew, that we need to work with the city of San Antonio to get something actually done. Not only that, this is going to cost a whole lot of money. And so the private sector is going to have to raise a vast majority of that. And so I'll explain that. It's in some of my slides at the very end about the funding, how it's used, how the public money is used, and then the private money and how that's going to be kind of our timeline on that. But I want to walk you real fast through the process. I will address glass walls. We'll do all of that just for fun. So we will kind of go through that. So I'm going to give you a real quick background, go through the process, go through what we've been through, and then of course be available for questions, and I'll be here as long as you want me to be. Okay? So the master plan, really this began even before 2015. In 1994, the city had put together a master plan community group, citizens advisory group. You've all heard about all these, you know how they work. And in that era, they put together some ideas about how to develop downtown, and one of those was the Alamo and the Alamo Plaza should be addressed. This area it's really busy, it's kind of, at that time, there were some significant problems with even a lot more crime and those types of things. And they said, our recommendation is to put together a citizens advisory committee who will look at the Alamo Plaza to see if we can do better. Nothing happened until 2012. So in 2012, there was a citizens advisory group put together. It was led by then Councilman Bernal, who was District 1, and Mayor Castro. They put together a 21-member advisory group. And they started putting together what we are using as our vision, our guiding principles, and that's our goals. And that is the vision and guiding principles that the city selected and that they adopted unanimously at the end of 2014. And then we began this community process with the state and put up our MOU and began this agreement with them on October 2015. We all adopted those vision and guiding principles. That's very important because that really establishes what we can and we cannot do. And it was a long, very long process. That vision and guiding principles were difficult. As we all know, this is not an easy history story to tell as much as we would like to say it is. It's 300 years of a lot of things. There are a lot of cultures that may or may not have been included in the past that should be included. There's a lot of things about how it was built in the mission era that has not been included in how we tell the story at the Alamo, and it should be. So those things are available. I can certainly get them to you if you're interested. But those kinds of things are some of the points that are part of our guiding principles that were important as we began talking about the master plan, with the caveat of we will never ever let go of or lose sight of, the reason that people come to the Alamo is 13 days in 1836. That's it. That's why they come. That's why they understand it. It's a John Wayne movie we watched when we were kids. Maybe it was Fess Parker. Maybe it was even a later movie, but that's why people come, is that is the cradle of Texas liberty, the shrine. It's the reason that this state started, is to remember the Alamo. So all of those things kind of collectively put together, I'll start with that. Okay?
Becky, would you prefer everybody wait for questions until the end?
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll get to that. I'll try to go through this
Okay.
very quickly, I promise. This is our timeline. This is what we've gone through. The master plan is basically a land use plan. It is not design concepts. That means we never approved glass walls. It's just a land use. What's going to happen here, what's going to happen here, what's going to happen here. So I'm going to talk to you through that. And the City Council in May unanimously adopted the master plan. And then we'll talk about next steps and what that might include as far as the other design pieces. Good. I'm missing. Okay.
Yeah, you've
Part
got
of
it
this
sort of
started,
pointing over
I
here.
said, and I went over what happened from 2012 to 2014. We have also since then had 5 public meetings. We've met with City Council 4 times. We've had more than 80 public meetings with people like you. We have a list of lots of stakeholder groups. That goes everything from the DRT to garden clubs to HOAs to chambers of commerce. We have met more than 80 times with groups just like you, because I feel it's important. You can't just go to a public meeting. Let's be frank. Sometimes the crazies are the ones who go to the public meeting. Sometimes it's people who don't have anything to do. Or maybe it's that's your issue. And we don't get a good public feedback if we don't go into the community ourselves. That's not fair to ask someone to come on some random Tuesday for 2 hours. So we are in the community talking to y'all, and we'll continue to stay in the community and continue to do that. But just to let you know, archaeology was a big part of our study last year. We did 2 major digs. We covered it every day on Facebook, if y'all are into that. We had hundreds of people tune into that every day from all over the world. A couple of people I want y'all to wave at. In the back is Kelly Epp. She's in the back. She put that together. She's incredible, a genius on social media, and has helped me with communications. And Rachel keeps me out of jail. She makes sure I show up at meetings. She does all those good things. But she's in my office. If you can't find me and have a question, the 2 of them know the question, know the answer, or they know how to find me. And then we did a lot of social media. We did a lot of public information stuff. And then everything that's available, even those public meetings, are online if you want to go back and watch. It's lots of fun to watch, especially the last one. So the key concepts are what were unanimously approved. And these are 5 very basic land use things. The first one, of course, is to restore the church in Long Bear. Everybody here seems to agree. I can't imagine anybody. Our priority 1, if we do nothing, if we get no more funding, we will spend every penny on making sure that the church and the Long Bear, our 2 historic buildings, are still here 300 years from now. This is our priority. Nobody disagrees with us on that. We must do preservation and restoration. These are some examples of some of the things that are going on today. My first couple of weeks, this chunk fell off of the front of the church. When you see things like that, you kind of react viscerally. And that's the kind of, they're limestone. It's what they do. They're old buildings.
The little black button in the center
Yeah.
is a laser point.
Oh, okay, good. So these aren't things that anybody did wrong. They're just old buildings. And so a biggest part of our plan is preservation and restoration of the church in Long Bear. This is the oldest picture of the Alamo. You can't see it very well, but you can see, I'm going to put it on the next one. You begin to see, and you can see it if you've been down to the Alamo lately, there's this line, this 4 or 5 foot line at the bottom of the Alamo. That's the rising damp that you've heard about, that you may have read about. This is a sponge. Limestone buildings just soak up stuff from the ground. And because of 2 feet of extra fill around the whole church in Long Barrack, it creates a bigger sponge. And this rising damp is one of the main reasons we see increasing deterioration of the church in Long Barrack. So we're going to address that in the master plan. We're going to take the area around the Alamo down 18 to 24 inches so that we're back to the original living surface. That will help it dry up naturally the way those buildings were designed. You can see that. This is a scan that we did. One of the studies during the master plan was to do a full laser scan of all the church, inside, outside, upside down. And this tells us a little bit about where our problem places are. For those of you who are really into buildings, I'll tell you about all that later. So this is a site area that kind of helps us. Our number 2 was to reestablish clarity and order. So most people know the Alamo. Oh, and this is LED. They think this is the Alamo, that's it, the church, this little bitty church. So you come, I'm going to go see the Alamo, saw the Alamo, and they're talking about facing this. The Alamo is this whole area. It's the mission footprint. It's the Mission de Valero footprint. It's the battlefield at the Alamo. It's a much bigger space than what we've ever been able to really interpret well. So one of the guiding principles was to tell us how can we reestablish clarity, order, and recapture that footprint. This footprint is what we're talking about. This is the church. Okay, this is Alamo Street, for those of you who haven't been down there yet. This is Houston. This is the Menger Hotel. This is the mall. Y'all know where I am? Okay. And these are the buildings the state bought in the end of 2015 that will become the new museum and visitor center. So these 3 buildings were bought. We'll be repurposing those buildings for a museum and visitor center. This area at the top is an Indigo, the federal building. The real truth is we don't have access to them. Indigo's not for sale, the federal building, they won't even talk to us about it. It's just not available right now. That doesn't mean in 15, 20 years that won't be another piece of the next phase. But right now the federal building is not available. We've heard a lot of feedback that people want that for the museum. It's just not there right now. And not even close. GSA is not interested. So what we want to do is, and we will find and figure out maybe in a later phase of what to do with the north side of the battlefield. Travis fell at the battle right here, right in the middle of the federal building. And we can't do anything with that right now, but it doesn't mean we won't ever give up. So the part that we can recapture is this museum piece, the historic battlefield. In this part, this is the plaza from Houston Street. And this is the 1936 garden that was put in by the Daughters of the Republic of Texas. It's a beautiful space. It's very peaceful. We would like to go in and re-landscape some of that, bring it back to what Clara Driscoll kind of dreamed that would be as an honorary garden, make it open more to the public. But this is not a part of the mission footprint. People think it is, and we've interpreted it as that. So we want to move the mission piece of it and the interpretation here and use this more as public space and garden space, the way it was intended. The other main thing is that the mission was built to have one entrance, the south gate. The south gate is meaningful in that the south gate leads to all the other missions. So we've got all the other missions that are all tied together, and the traditional entrance was always to the south and always back out. We would like to get a more streamlined entrance into the area. Several reasons for that. One, you can interpret it better. You can teach people better the historical part of how you want people to flow through. It's kind of like Disneyland. They force you to go through Main Street and then you get to go to the other side. But that actually is an educational purpose for that. And then also exit back through that way. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the ideas that we have for the South Gate. We also know that there are remnants of the South Gate still there. How great would it be to go through and archaeologically uncover all of that? Many of y'all been to Athens, seen what they've done? Put the archaeology out, put glass on top of it so you can actually see the walls of the mission as a part of your experience at the Alamo. So recapture the historic mission plaza. This is what I was talking about is you don't naturally know. You might, if you're a really good history buff, know that this is a battlefield. But if you were there with me today, it is not a battlefield scene. This is not what you feel like when you're at Gettysburg. This is not what you feel like when you're at Pearl Harbor. It's just a street. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's noise. There's a street preacher out there every day telling us about the gospel. There's all kinds of stuff going on out there. And it's not really preserved as a battlefield. And one of our guiding principles is we should be telling the story of the whole mission and what happened there. People died there. Travis wrote his letter right here. Victory or death. And nobody knows. It's not an obvious thing. We need to do better by that story. So that's part of our plan. This also addresses the lowering the elevation. The idea of lowering the elevation is not just preservation, but it gives a different sense of feeling. One of our goals in the next plan and the next part of the phase is how can we have it so that anybody who comes there understands where they are and feels where they are. You can do that subtly with lowering the elevation a little bit. It's still shaded, it's still quiet, we can close the streets and it's more peaceful. You don't have sirens going through all there every day, and you can have it feel more peaceful and more reverent. And that's one of our goals, and that's one of the guiding principles. And that's also one of the things that the lowering the grade very gradually will help us do. So this is the battlefield, what it sort of looked like. George Nelson is one of my favorite people. He's at the gift shop right now if you want to go and buy a book. But George Nelson has studied a lot of history. He's an artist who just gave us a great rendering of what the mission looked like during the battle era. A lot of people like this. I think it's very cool. We use this a lot as an illustration. About right here is where the Via bus stop is. So Alamo Street runs right through here. Houston runs right through here. These are the buildings that we bought for the museum. So you can see how on the first floor we could interpret what the buildings were, where the office was that Travis wrote the letters, the south gate. There's some things that we want the designers to help us with some ideas of how to make the mission gate more obvious. These walls that we hear in front of the church, and then the long barrack, the story of the long barrack. An interesting part of this are the acequias. Who in Texas doesn't appreciate water? And the reason the mission is there, the reason San Antonio started there, the reason that indigenous people have lived there for 10,000 years is water. So the acequias were used during the mission era for irrigating the land around it and for bringing water to the mission. And it was a unique, very unique Spanish colonial technology, and one that was very important that helped us get World Heritage status. So the acequias, an interpretation of the acequias, will be a part of what we put there in the Mission Plaza, which I think would be a very cool water feature to talk about the role of water. Everybody knows the line in the sand. This is what we do today in the Alamo. I took this yesterday. So I just think we can do better than that. And the segues are fun and they're cool, but you don't understand it as a battlefield. There are some other things that we would really like to not see on the battlefield. I don't know that I have to explain all of these, but we have a lot of protests and guys doing weird things on YouTube. We have porta potties by the cenotaph. This was taken on a day that they were dropping off about 300 students, and I had 10 buses right in front of the Alamo. These are the kind of things that we can redirect. I'm not saying that things have to go away. We need to redirect and get them off the battlefield. Are y'all with me on that? I'll get there. I'll get there. These are all taken within the last 10 months.
There's a guy in the lower right.
Yeah, he's famous, apparently. He was arrested. This is what we do want on the mission and the battlefield. We want living history. We want kids talking about history. We want educational programs. We want the Battle of Flowers laying wreaths. We want military ceremonies. The Alamo was actually a mission military post much longer than was anything else. We love this stuff. And we still have, of course, thousands of things like this all day, every day. This is what makes sense at the mission. So, the World Class Visitor Center and Museum, we don't have designs on that yet, but that's sort of our next phase. Obviously, we have some collections and things. The Alamo deserves a museum. People are always surprised there's no museum at the Alamo. We're going to have an Alamo museum. It's time we did this. And quite frankly, a lot of the money that will be raised from the private sector will need to go into the museum.
Where?
These are the 3 buildings that the state bought on the west side that are sitting on the west wall of the Alamo, of the footprint. So it's on the other side of Alamo. On number 5, the creative sense of arrival to the site was a key concept. This is to bring people in and get them ready for the visit. And that is closing the street from Commerce Street to Houston and having a pedestrian walkway. Something that's open and nice and beautiful, and a place for people to have picnics and bringing them in. And so this is what possibly could be an idea for what Alamo could look like as you're walking up. This is the view from when you're standing in front of, like, where the Torch of Friendship is, the big red thing. Instead of Alamo Street looks like this right now. So we have addressed a lot of critical issues that have come up in public meetings. The public meetings are so we can kind of gauge what matters, what things we need to address in the design phase, what do we have to deal with. The legislature also brought up some key issues, and these are some of that we talked about. We need to increase public park space. We need to increase places for people to gather. It is very important for people to have a place to express their opinion, their free amendment. So we need to create better space for that. And that is something that we did, that we want to use the land. We want security. We've had several security groups come in and look. I don't know if you've worked on any security issues lately, but the Alamo is not a very safe place if you're looking at it from the security paranoid perspective. So you've got 3 lanes of traffic all the way around it. We have about 8 entrances. You can freely come and go. And with very little to deter anybody from, God forbid, doing what they've done in Paris and Brussels and London lately. And we would be naive if we did not address the problems but we don't want it to be ugly. We don't want it to be obtrusive. Right now, the Eiffel Tower has 9-foot portable gates all the way around the Eiffel Tower right now. That's not a solution. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We want it to be aesthetically pleasing, a beautiful place, but still safe. So that's one of our goals. I don't know what that's going to look like, but we have to address the security issue, because right now it is exposed in the worst kind of way. And nobody wants anything bad to happen at the Alamo. Traditions and events. The Cavaliers, we need to continue all these things. We've worked with the Fiesta Commission to get a new Battle of Flowers parade route. We also have addressed the economic impact to make sure that nobody goes out of business, and to be sure that public money is returned in various ways. That public investment is very important to us, to the state, and to the city, that there's a good ROI. Promise I'm almost through. Public space today, for example, the Alamo Plaza is about 2¼ acres. We want to expand that with the new footprint to include that 9½ acres. The garden in the back, which is the blue area, all of this with the street and being able to capture some of the streets adds a lot of space for green space, for visiting space. And then Alamo Plaza can go all the way to the buildings instead of with the streets through there. And we believe that's going to, we know that that's going to give us an additional almost 7 acres for community events, for community stuff, for hanging around, for whatever we might want to do. Security review, we've done all these things. I wanted to let you know these are our entrances and exits. It is a priority, especially of the state. The governor said if I'm going to give you $100 million, 75 out in this session, by golly, it's going to be safe. So that's sort of where some of that comes from. But we want to continue to have public access. We want it to be something that's easy to get to. We will have our study completed by September, with designs later coming and following after that. But we also really want to emphasize that it must be inviting and easy to get to. This is not something we want to make so secure that you can't even get there, or it feels so scary because of the security that you don't want to go. So that's why we're talking about it now. This is what we don't want it to look like. The Fiesta Parade routes will go around to the west side. This is actually the first route that was used back in the 1920s by the Fiesta Parade Commission. We've talked to them. They're excited. They can still lay wreaths at the Alamo. So I wanted y'all to know we did work the Fiesta. I get that question a lot, to make sure that we're working with the Battle of Flowers, because that's a big deal. Okay, funding and economic compact. Councilman, you asked me about this. What are you doing with my money? What are you doing with our money? This is taxpayer money. What are you going to do with it? So the city of San Antonio has put in a total so far of $38 million. $1 million from another project that has not been used. $1 million was set aside for the master plan. That was not used. The state paid for the entire master plan, so that's still in the bank. $16 million was came through the capital budget from the last bond. This bond in May, it was approved 21 more million dollars. So $38 million will be used for the public spaces. It will be used for the landscaping that's public spaces. It's for that city property that's still out there. There's a lot of infrastructure. You can imagine what digging around in those 300-year-old streets will have to do. So a lot of that is what we have said we will designate the city money to go towards city projects to improve city areas and city property. Okay? The state of Texas put in $31 million in last legislative session. Governor just signed 2 weeks ago 75 more million, so there's $100 million in from state funding. 25 million of that was used for the current master plan, but most of it was spent on the buildings for the future museum and then the master plan. All of that has not been used up yet. We've got a few more years, and then we also have a significant preservation plan that the state money will go toward. The rest of the $75 million, there's a big chunk that I believe will be used for the preservation plan. That is a priority of the governor and the lieutenant governor. Right now, the estimates, Kelly, correct me if I'm right, the estimates are around 50 for the preservation plan for the Alamo and Long Barracks. So, ching, 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 we're running down. And that's everything from making sure that the walls are reinforced. We're having to restudy. We're doing some archaeology to make sure we really do know what's there. All that is part of the state funding and what they want us to spend it on in Austin, as well as some of the rest of the planning and design process. So TXP is a company out of Austin. They do a lot of economic impact studies, and we said, okay, what are we going to get back for the money? Because this was required for us to talk to not only the city but the state. We know that this is a medium range. There's conservative, medium, and high. The high numbers were so good it was ridiculous. Nobody would believe me. But the medium numbers, we believe we will add about 4,000 jobs to downtown. We will believe that the revenue annually will be 9.5 for the city of San Antonio. This is a hot tax. This is additional money spent in hotels, money in revenue, and staying a little bit longer in hotels. And then state of Texas revenue, that's the 11% of the hot tax will go back to the state, and that's $17 million a year. How we got to those numbers was we believe if you can make a better experience, and right now people stay at the Alamo anywhere between 8 and 30 minutes. If we can get them to go inside, they'll stay for 30 whole minutes. At Independence Hall in Independence in Philadelphia, they stay for 2 hours. If we can get them from 30 minutes to 2 hours, it's another half day, it's another restaurant, it's another night at the hotel. That's where this comes from. It's not your tax money. It's not. It's honestly, it's the longer stay of a heritage traveler, and this is done, and it's been done all, and it's been correct. I mean, this is something that we believe will start more businesses. We believe it will increase our hospitality business downtown. If they're only staying 8 minutes, the Alamo honestly is not doing a whole lot for hospitality right now, and we can do better than that. We can provide a better experience. It's a much better story than what we've been able to tell so far. Our Alamo Endowment goal for fundraising is $200 million. So that is where a majority of this money is going to have to come from. That's private donations, that's private foundations, that's corporate donations. We have a lot of interest. I talk to people 2 or 3 times a week who are interested in where we are. We don't have the asks out yet because I don't have designs yet. If y'all been in those fundraising meetings or if you've been in a nonprofit, I'm not going to go to them until I can tell them where this is going to happen and what that's going to look like and how that's going to work. But they're very interested. We have a significant number of donors across the state. It's not all up to San Antonio that are very interested in this project. So we feel confident this is something that we can meet. We have about 2.5 to 4 years to be able to meet this, and that's a very reachable goal on something like the Alamo. For example, the Fort Worth Zoo recently added on to theirs, similar to how we did, and a lady named Ramona Bass, who's from San Antonio, was the head of that campaign. She raised $200 for the Fort Worth Zoo. Well, she's on our committee. She's from here, and she says, I can do that for the Alamo. It's the Alamo. there's plenty of investment and plenty of people who have legacy money that they want to put into the Alamo because it's important to them. There's not a person that comes up to me when I'm at the site that doesn't tell me a personal story about the Alamo. I'm really fortunate to be there every day. I get to sit in all the meetings. I have no authority. I have no money to speak of. I'm not from a rich family. But I get to sit and listen to this every day, and I get to visit with people as they come, and little kids to older generations who bring their kids and their grandkids, and that's what it is about the Alamo. This is a personal thing. You've been there. You've taken your family. They come to visit you, drag them down to the Alamo. You can't park. It takes 30 minutes. We know all that. The Alamo is personal. It's a personal story. I'm a 5th generation Texan. My grandmother spent 3 years figuring out how she was related to somebody who was here during the Texas independence era, so she could be a part of DRT in Granbury, Texas. And we're proud of that, just like y'all are proud of having the Alamo in our hometown. So it's an honor for me to come and talk to you about our ideas and about where we are. We're a long way from being finished. We don't have any designs finished yet. I don't even know which trees are going to go. I can tell you that we changed the master plan so that we're not losing any trees, Councilman. You'd ask me about that. We're not losing any trees. We're going to add 100 trees. A lot of that has to do with planting trees on the streets and the other public areas. We're not going to lose any shade. We don't know where the cenotaph may move to yet. I don't know the answer to that. But that's in discussion, and that'll be a part of public discussions. So, questions?
We got to replace the inside of the cenotaph.
The cenotaph is, it's iron, I believe.
Yes.
And it's rusting, and there's actually some breaks on the top, so we know it's deteriorating from the inside. So it needs to be conserved. If we do nothing, we have to take it apart and conserve it, clean it, put it back together.
I heard somebody say that they were going to relocate to where they thought the mass burial was after
One of the ideas, the city still has to agree on it. I'm going to go back. I'll show you where. So one of the ideas is to move the cenotaph to this location. This is where the convention center is. This convention center, or the new garden in front of the convention center. And this is the Marriott Hotel. The funeral pyres, there's been archaeology and shown to go right around here. And one of the ideas is to move it into a memorial garden here that's linear parks on street level, to move it to right here. It'll fit, but that really is still in discussion. We believe it's the best location because it helps expand the telling of the story of the Alamo. It interprets that area correctly. Right now, if you go over there, it's covered with bushes, but there's a plaque. It says, this is where the one of the funeral pyres were, where they found some ashes. And that's it. That's all we did for the heroes. So this was one of the ideas, and one of the stronger ideas. The city prefers this, but we're still listening and still trying to get feedback on that. Other questions? You've got a question. I know you have a question.
Well, I've been sitting back here for a while, but I'm waiting for you to finish so we can get to the last
I'm good.
walls.
Well, the only last thing I have, next up in the city.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. So the next things, continued public meetings like this. We will go through the city's process. There's a historic design review commission, there's a planning commission, there's a zoning commission. All of these entities must look at, review, and approve before we can move forward. The planning commission does the streets. Kelly, correct me if I'm right, Councilman, the planning does the streets, the zoning will do the view shed, the HDRC will look at the review and will look at the designs. They'll look at the design of the museum. And these are all city community appointed groups. And that will continue throughout this year and throughout next year. We still have to do designs. We still have to hire architects. We still have to hire landscapers. Wow. We still have to hire. Now we're going to expand some of the team. We're not going to start all over. That wouldn't make sense. They've done all this homework. So we're going to enhance the team. Add to that people who may be really, really good at moving heritage trees, for example, or saving heritage trees if we're going to lower everything 18 inches. So we're going to add to our design team. We're going to add a museum architect. We're going to add some landscapers and some landscape ideas, because a lot of the things that we heard back from the city were that a lot of people didn't like some of the ideas that were put out there. So we're going to see what else you got. Kind of, seriously, what else you got? What are some more ideas? How can we keep it secure, interpret it well, and stay within World Heritage guidelines? That's kind of where we are right now.
So the glass wall was just a thought. It's not.
Well, it's an
locked in stone.
idea, and there were really more interpretive panels, and of course, all that came out in the media was walls, 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 walls. If you've ever been to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington,
Yeah.
the Air Force Memorial at Arlington, Virginia, if you've ever been to they're honorary walls that have the names. That's the idea, but boy, was it not understood well like that. Something like that, where you can use an interpretive panel to talk about the history of the site. But I don't know how far down the road we'll go. We're a long way from really getting to where we have the final ideas on what that's going to look like. But, you know, glass is used a lot at historical sites. It's used a lot for honorariums. It's used a lot to be able to highlight things that happened without it. If we built a rock wall, it would hide the church. We don't have a lot of support for hiding the church behind a, prison-like walls. We don't have a lot of support for that. So what do we do? I don't know yet, but we're going to figure it out. What else you got is what we're going to tell the designers. Come on, what else you got?
Well, I've got one more. We were talking about maintaining the church and the long barracks. I presume that part of the endowment then would create an endowment
Yes.
for that purpose.
Right.
Strictly for
Yeah.
maintaining.
I mean, our philosophy with the endowment and with building, the endowment's the name of the organization, but we need an endowment. The Alamo has this much in endowment right now, 0. For 100 years, nothing has been done to build an endowment. So as a part of our fundraising effort, and every ask to a corporate or private donor will be, a percentage of this must go into an endowment. We must have a planned giving strategy. Usually that will go into an endowment process. We have to have something that is an endowment to support the Alamo. We cannot go back to taxpayers over and over again. We cannot do that. We're not going to do that. It just can't sustain that. So, yeah, the endowment, we need at least, well, I'm not going to guess, but we need a lot in an endowment. Yes, ma'am.
I'm probably not going to sound real. Probably not the first one.
No, tell me. I've heard it all.
Is there someone this is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, we had a friend come, special trip to San Antonio to see the Alamo. Didn't want to see it all his life.
Oh,
It was obsessed. For one thing, do we have to have 10 school buses of children go through in one day?
exactly.
And you stand in line.
You stand in line, you wait for them.
And then you get there, and you get in there, and they're screaming, and they're running around, and they're, I'm
Pushing each other.
sorry, we need, but the point being, I remember coming to San Antonio, I'm not from Texas, and going through the Alamo, and what was there in the church, I guess is that, the chapel, it was, I wasn't even from Texas, and I felt the reverence of that. It's not there now, because not on top of everything else, the guests, I mean, the souvenir thing is in the, that time, was in the chapel.
Oh, wow. It's not anymore.
I'm sorry, so my question is, can we do all of this, which I think needs to be done, but do it in a way that we can retrieve at least some of it for people that come, because it may be the only chance they get to see it.
Sure.
And it's a very moving thing to
Yeah.
see.
Reverence is one of the guiding principles, and so important to people who come, because there are a lot of people who come who've waited their whole life to come, and that may be their only chance. And you're
I
right.
think all kids should see it, but let's not have 10 school buses for
There
it.
should be a better way.
There should be better.
I agree.
Or they should at least be taught how to go through,
Yeah.
There
should be a better
something
way.
about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, that's my old one.
I got it. All right. Go ahead.
All right.
You want rock walls?
No, I don't want rock walls, and I'm kind of curious about the glass walls to begin with.
Yeah.
So now we have somebody that wants to cut the number of people down, but when you wall the entire thing off and you've got one entrance, you said you're concerned about security, and you also mentioned, God forbid, something happened in there. So now, we know there's going to be a limited number of people allowed into the Alamo. I'm sure you know that, right? We're gonna have to
I don't know that I would put it that way, but I think you get what we're saying. We've got to figure out how to secure it. We can't forbid people from coming in, which is another challenge.
It's just a matter of having.
Well,
We need reverence, so it is difficult, because there's all this stuff, and they compete.
at some point, it's going to be like a building, because there's walls all the way around it. X
I don't
number
know
of
that
people
it's-
can get in there,
Yeah.
and X number of people can get out in the event of an emergency. And then, what happens to the Riverwalk access? I hadn't heard that mentioned either.
We are going to redo the Paseo. We've talked about different ideas on how to do the Paseo, but that wasn't in the master plan process because there's already a path, so that'll come in the design process. But the path to the Riverwalk has to be better, but that'll have to be in the
So
design.
you're going to have people flowing in from the Riverwalk, people flowing in from one side. I'm just asking because you said, I want to balance security and access. And then, of course, the Alamo is a great spot for people to do demonstrations, probably 90% of which I disagree with. So
But one, you might.
there's probably one or two that I might agree with.
Yeah.
So who becomes the custodian of what you can do in the Alamo? Who is that?
Well, that's a great question. We're talking a lot about all that. And you get the challenges. You can't do everything because some of them are opposed. We need to provide some kind of access for the community, for businesses that are around there. We will have a museum that has doors on the north and the south. It's a whole 130,000 square feet that's not inside, that's not available now. We have 8 extra acres of community space and gathering space that's out there. We have recommended, but it needs to go through a process of moving. Let's see if I can get to the First Amendment area.
Talking to security experts, and
Yeah, we
that's
have.
kind of like my little thing.
Yeah, we interviewed 2 firms last week. We've gone through it with another firm before.
They're going to have to give you a max number of people that you can get in there, and a max number of people that you can get out.
I'll show you the right now, the proposal, right now, all of this, you do anything you want. In the footprint, we would like to keep that history, education, people moving around reverent. We are moving most of the time people will protest here or here. The street preacher is here some days, he was out here today. He just wanders around. We would like to move protests from here to here. It's more space, it's more public space, it's safer. The issue on First Amendment has more to do with security, as you probably know, than anything else. You have to be sure that the people there are safe and the protesters are safe. So it's a proposal, it still has to be reviewed, it still has to be discussed, but that is something that we have asked is to move all the protests from here to all this public space when it's ready.
Figure out where that is.
Ish. Something like that. Other than that, I don't know the exact answer because we're just not there yet.
Okay.
But we are talking about it.
This will all be done by tomorrow, right?
No. We are a long way from being through.
What do you
There's
estimate the
some
timeline?
flexibility in this, where you hear glass walls and closing this
Yeah.
thing off,
Yeah.
and security
I
experts.
don't think we'll be able to, we never really even showed designs where it was totally closed off anyway, but of course that was the impression that was given, and that's on us, we could, but it needs to have access and people can kind of go in.
I got the impression too, you're going to close it at 10 o'clock at night, the whole shit.
All the operation stuff, I'm 7 years away from that, so
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm going to do 7 years from now.
Right? We're not going to charge you.
No, we can't charge for the Alamo.
Okay.
Unless somebody, if Jesus come and changes Texas' mind, we're not going to be able to charge for the Alamo, for getting in with those cars.
Could you meditate the souvenir, the souvenirs out of the chapel part of it?
The souvenirs are out of the church. We have a gift shop here, and the gift shop stuff will move over to the new museum.
That was one of my questions. What are you going to do with the gift shop, and what are you going to do with Alamo Hall?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Are you in the DRT?
I am qualified, but I'm not in the DRT.
Okay.
They're good friends.
Okay, because the Alamo Hall...
We still have a lot of events in
Well, the
Alamo.
Alamo Hall is where the DRT met, and it was also built 90 years ago under Roosevelt.
Yeah. It was a fire hall first.
It was a fire hall.
2 stories. Wish we still had 2 stories.
Well, no, it
I think
had
you
the
said
basement.
space. And then that's where the basement is, for those of you who want to know where Pee-wee's bike is. The
Yeah, if you
basement
hear
is
about
on-
the basement, it is not a myth.
Yes.
You showed some metrics on the number of jobs that would come.
Yeah.
Do you have a number of jobs today
4,000.
that it's producing and the income that it's producing today? What's the difference? Would that
I
be?
do, and I don't have it memorized. Kelly, do you know? I promise I can get that to Art and he can send it to you.
Or get it to our councilman?
I can get it to city council, and we
Makes
do. It's about a 40% increase, but I'll get the exact numbers to you and you can get it to them. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any chance that you might do like Gettysburg and have it look like, I mean, have people there that are dressed up like that?
We have living history there now. We do it in the back, the majority of it, because it's shaded and really, really hot right now.
Yeah.
And we don't own the plaza. So I work with the endowment, but the state, when the state is able to manage the plaza, we want to move all the living history out to the front. That way you can see it when you're walking out. People don't know, so they're almost hidden right now. But we added, since I started 2 years ago, we've added 5 full-time, and every day we have demonstrations all day, every day. Come down, come back. Yes, sir. Oh, somebody over here had a hand up a long time. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was curious about why it's necessary to move the cenotaph.
Right now, we need to conserve it first. I'm not sure that we wanted to be able to recapture the battlefield footprint, and it sits in the middle of the battlefield. We can use that for education space.
That cenotaph died on that battlefield.
Right,
That
you're
seems
right.
that itself is an interpretation of
Right.
what took place.
You're right. It was something that was proposed and supported by City Council. I didn't necessarily have a dog in that fight, but that decision, again, is not even decided as when they finish repairing it, where it will go back up. It has also been recommended to put it back up right here. When I talked to my friends in the DRT, this is actually their preference. They don't mind it being moved, because that's where it was originally planned to be put, was in front of the Menger. So that when you come up, you come to the memorial and then you go into the battlefield. But I don't know where it's going to end up being.
Yeah, we're just not somewhere.
The senior's gonna have to walk to get that.
Yes. How are you?
When will the final
They'll bring
decision on
wheelchairs
the
too.
placement of the cenotaph be made?
I
Yeah,
don't
they do.
know the answer to that. There are a series of planning and zoning and HDRC meetings that will happen throughout this year. They will all be posted publicly, and we will have community meetings about that, but I don't know the exact timeline, but it will be this year. So if you'll watch for City Council review, it won't be this summer. It'll be starting in the fall. If you'll watch for those, that's when they'll post them publicly, because that's a city decision and a city planning decision.
So I heard timeline, I heard you mentioned 2.5 to 4 years and then 7
Design,
years.
right. 2.5 years probably of design and approvals and the process. And then, but we are hoping to be able to open the museum in 2024. That's our goal. That is the 300th anniversary of this site of the Alamo. Long time ago.
We'll wheel you in there, Tom, don't worry.
Yeah, you will. You'll be here.
Oh, I'll make it, yeah.
I'm gonna bring you.
It's only 7 years.
I've got a question.
Just a small question, because all of us are how can citizens of Salem Town help in this process?
You're helping right now by listening and hearing and asking questions. The Alamo belongs to San Antonio and it belongs to Texas. Another very difficult balance for us is sometimes the citizens don't always agree with what we hear out of Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston. But we're trying to figure that out.
That's what I'm saying.
I know, and it's a tough one. It's very difficult because the state's put in 100 and the city's only put in 30. I've heard all the arguments. It's difficult, and there are citizens out there who are given a lot of money.
Good.
Who don't live in San Antonio.
But they want it their way.
And they all want it their way. Believe me, I'll show you all my emails. It's tough because it's personal. I told you that from the beginning. I get a letter every 3 days from a lady in Canada
Who cares about the Alamo?
who is writing me about what I need to be doing at the Alamo. We can't not want that kind of love for a place like this. Other museums and Independence Hill would kill for that kind of love and respect for a site like this. They really would. It's something that nobody has with the Alamo. We just happen to have it right here in our hometown.
But that's my point.
It's tough.
We need to keep it somewhat
Yeah.
like that while all of this is happening.
It will always be open.
Well,
We've committed to that. Bar something really weird happening, we want to keep the church open so that
No
people who
admission.
spend their life,
No admission.
we're not going to charge,
Thank you.
except the museum. We'll have to charge the museum. And school tours, for the most part, have to be free. We can't charge public school kids.
You should have regulated.
We can't do that. We can help manage their flow better. So there's a lot of things that we're in the middle of that we're trying to decide operationally. We're a long way from operations, a long way from knowing what time it's been open or closed. Councilman, you have a question?
Yeah, when you open up the museum, will there be things taken out of the Alamo to be put over there? What would be left in the chapel and
I don't know all
barracks?
of that. Honestly, we're going to start putting together an intermittent team to tell us and work through what goes where, which artifacts will go where's there going to be a gift shop, where the restroom's going to be, where's the loading zone going to be, all of that. We're not there yet. But we do want to be able to still have some exhibits that make sense in the church and some exhibits that make sense in the Long Bear. Right now, our only museum space is the Long Bear and the library. They're tiny, and it's honestly not very healthy for the Long Bear. So we don't know the answers to those questions, but I will keep you posted and keep you all posted through the HOA and through councilman.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Like on the Alamo, all I see is the pictures and the remnants of what happened, but I don't see any bronze statues or the heroes of the Alamo. You always hear about it. I'd like to see bronze of Crockett.
There's one coming. I don't know when.
Yeah.
Somebody's made it right.
And even scattered around where you planted a dark gone wall.
Yeah.
So the kids can go by and you have a plaque there that says, this is so-and-so. Because one of my Baileys fought to the Alamo. This is Bailey so-and-so, he died here, stuff like that.
Bill, have you been to the Briscoe?
No.
You ought to go see it.
There are a lot of those kinds of things. Some of them, like honorariums to the defenders, are being
That
planned.
would, for the kids, that would say, this is the guy.
Yeah. All right. His birthday's on the 17th. You gonna come out?
Huh?
His birthday's August 17th. You gonna come out? We're gonna have a big party. Davy Crockett's.
I'm not related.
Oh, no, we're not him. Okay. Actually, that's my father.
Are you sure it wasn't you, Bill?
Oh.
That was hard.
Yes, sir, Matt.
What was the process like of choosing an architect? How have the Daughters of the Republic been included, excluded, and did they approve the architect, and where are they?
Reimagine team has a management committee. Here's the structure of authority. So the mayor of San Antonio and the commissioner of the land office are the executive committee. They can veto anything. So they are the final vote on everything. Underneath them is a management committee, and there are 2 members from the city, 2 members from the state, 2 members from the Alamo. 2 members from the city are Cheryl Scully and Councilman Trevino, District 1. It's his district. He's also an architect, which has been a gift. He knows what we're talking about. So those are the city representatives. The state representatives is the chief clerk, Ann Itzel, and one of the chief counselors for the general land office, Hector Valle. Both Texans, both deep roots. The endowment board is Gene Powell and Ramona Bass. Both San Antonians, both deep roots in Texas, and with resources to be able to get this job finished. Gene Powell developed most of this part of San Antonio. Rogers Ranch, he built my neighborhood. He developed a lot of stone metal. He's been around. He's ornery and wonderful to work with. He is. I mean, it's Gene. If you've ever been around Gene.
Yes.
He's wonderful. The Daughters of the Republic of Texas have a seat, a permanent seat on the Citizens Advisory Committee. The 21-member public group that is a part of the advisory group that we meet with before we ever go to a public meeting has a DRT member on it. Sharon Roserback. I don't know if you know Dr. Skrobarsek. She's on it right now as the DRT representative. But they've been involved with all of the meetings, all of the advisory meetings from the very beginning of this process. And I talk to them all the time. We deal with, of course, most of the Battle of Flowers are DRT. We talk with the Fiesta Commission all the time. They're one of our key stakeholders. I work with the Sons of the Republic of Texas a lot. Ed and some of the living history people that the president of the SRT is in Bernie now, that's statewide. And so I talk to him regularly. All of those heritage groups are involved. And it's important that we continue. I can't get this done without their support. I have to, it's very important that we continue to engage them and talk to them. There's no way I would pull this off without them. Yes, sir.
There's a large group from Japan to Sweden, Great Britain, who come here every year for the 13 days of the Alamo. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
They are.
And that includes architects, historical architects from all over. Not one single person in that approves of that glass wall, plexiglass wall is what it is.
Well, we talked to Gary Foreman and we talked to the Alamo Society. Almost weekly. So they are involved too. And they understand that we have some challenges with design. And they are supportive because they know that they've been, Gary, for example, has worked on this for 25 years. And we talk to him a lot. And he has said, you know what, if you can get some of this done, I'm okay. It's not everything. Nobody's going to get what they want. I'm not going to get everything I want, that's for sure. But we should get 80, if I can get 80%, no, that's a terrible thing to say. I heard it on the news yesterday and I hated it. But if we can get close and get most of this done, we can't just leave it like it is. And Gary and the Alamo Society agree with us. Reverence is his biggest deal. Is please restore reverence to the site, to the battlefield.
Hopefully without a wall.
I don't know yet.
So you're for the glass, you like the glass wall?
I think we need to interpret the area and be able to set apart the boundaries. How we do that should probably be a mix of organic and interpretive. We can't build rock walls. I don't like the rock walls because you can't see the church if you start putting up structures like that. I think we should be able to see in. That's my personal preference, but I'm not going to get everything. I like it to be a mixture,
Okay, so
but
to
I'm not.
interpret it, it sounds like you need to see it, and in order to see it, you need that glass wall.
Or put something that helps us understand. There can be landscape. There's a lot of different options. Somebody mentioned fountains. It's Texas. We're not going to have fountains. We don't have the water for that. But I don't know what it's going to be. There are a lot of different ideas that are being asked. We really have asked them to go back and try to
But with all of them, we only have one egress.
not necessarily. We have to have a north and south entrance to the museum. I still believe that there has to be a north and south entrance for people to get out in an emergency. Security's going to require that thing too. We're going to lower the walls around the Centennial Garden so that that's more open, but we still again have to secure that because that's the back of the church.
Do you have a fix on how much money comes in from the donations people give? And how much, what about the profits from the gift shop?
So the revenue right now
Does that go to?
at the Alamo is around 3.8 to 4.2 million, depending on the year, how good the year is. Nobody has ever gone through and done a significant fundraising effort for the Alamo in a way that we will be required to. It's been tried. It's a very difficult thing. The daughters did not have professional people necessarily helping them with that, and so they asked for our help on that piece. But you have to have a project to be able to raise money. You know how that goes. But we have to increase the revenue. We also have to have more creative revenue streams, like buy a parking lot and be able to use that for revenue stream. Have some more real estate. All of those things have to be a part of the economic plan that's not finished or finalized yet.
Are you going to have a parking garage?
That's my question.
There's one element of this that I can't necessarily talk about yet, but is an element that is important, is the entertainment district. In order to move the businesses that are in the current buildings right now, we have talked with the city, and this is really the city's part of it, is to develop an area called the entertainment district. It's not as bad as it sounds. There are better words. But an entertainment district is something that the city's been talking about with some of the area landowners and developers, and there should be a proposal by fall, at least an idea, and that will include some underground parking and all that stuff.
You can see a lot of young people here, and most of us have
I need parking.
Most of us have problems walking, so you're gonna make us walk like 3 blocks to get there, you know? Because I usually drop off my wife and the family, you know, so they can visit, because they're all
You
having problems.
still drop them off at the mayor, it's still just.
Don't y'all still provide wheelchairs? Okay, see, told
You
you.
got a gentleman back here who's.
Yeah, but you have to park. No, they will bring the wheelchair to you.
They won't bring it where you park your car.
Are you going
Yes,
to
they do.
No, they
remove
do
Alamo
not.
Street?
When you're down
We
at the
will
parking lot,
close
they're not
that
gonna
part
bring
of
it.
Alamo Street, has been a proposal. That will go before the planning commission sometime in the next year.
So there won't be any street that traffic can pass by the Alamo with?
Correct.
No.
Good idea.
Good idea.
That's our proposal.
Great idea.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about fiscal responsibility to taxpayers.
Mhm.
You said that 25 million approximately was spent on the master plan.
Not
And-
just the buildings and the.
And yet, what you have tonight is not a detailed plan, but just a general outline. With a lot of details not decided or researched yet.
Well-
So where did the 25 million go?
Okay, so we had archaeology that we had to have for our history. We had to do laser scanning and detailed scanning of the entire grounds. We had to resurvey everything. The city has never put together, and the city and state has never put together all of the archaeology that's been done at the Alamo. About 13, between 10 and 13 digs have happened. Nobody pieced it all together until we did. So all of that research and all of that work had to be done. Nobody had ever scanned and looked at every rock on the church and every rock in the lawn beds. The floor, the ceiling, the roof, everything. We did that during this last year with the master plan. We bought the buildings. It was $14.5 million to buy those 3 buildings. We spent, I don't know what the final tally is on the master plan, but it was around $4 to $5 million, something like that. It was all paid by the state. Then we also had a lot of preservation projects that happened. We have used it to update the library, the DRT library. We used it to update the Alamo Hall. There were a lot of things that we had to fix on the Long Barracks roof. We put in some wiring for Wi-Fi. There are things that you can't see that are part of kind of keeping up the preservation piece and keeping up the site, and a lot of that was used for that. Right now we're looking at some of the rest of the money for future looking on technology that we want to be sure that we have and infrastructure on the site itself. And so that's how that money is being used.
Another idea. You know, every month I get my either water bill or the CBS bill. They always ask me to chunk in some money. Councilman, you know, you could change the SAWS bill and say donation to Alamo, and I'd chunk in. I put in $10 a month every time I got my bill. I mean, if a million people put in like $1, you know, that'll help you out.
It's a great idea. I can't oppose that. Yes, sir.
I asked you a 2-part question, and you answered.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate you answering the second part. To go back to the first part.
Yeah.
Were there any Texas architects that were native Texans who were included as architects as consideration?
Yeah,
How did that
right,
decision
I'm sorry,
go as far as choosing an out-of-state architect?
Right, so the architects were chosen through a process with the management committee, the 6 people I told you about. And we went through and selected, we pulled out about 200 that had done master planning at historic sites. And pulled in 9 for interviews, 9 that submitted proposals, 6 came in for interviews. One of those was local Fisher Heck, and they were one of the master plan lead teams. We had 3 lead teams, PDP, which is the firm out of Philadelphia. They were the lead planner because they had the most preservation. They had the most preservation experience. They redid the Supreme Court in Philadelphia. So that's the preservation expertise. Fisher Heck is our local architect and has been the lead on that. And he also has preservation experience. Lewis Fisher has been in all of our meetings. He's a local. We also have Rialto, who is a local landscaper and heritage landscaper who just finished a master plan of Breckenridge Park. He's been on our master plan team. And then GDU is a world-renowned landscaping company out of Mexico that worked with Rialto on some of the projects. So the top three were PDP, Fisher Heck, and GDU, partnered with Rialto. GDU needed a local partner in Texas architect. So those were the main people, and they still come, of course, to all of our meetings.
Since we're a World Heritage Site, when you get all the plan done in a couple of years, how does the World Heritage Site have to come in and approve everything that we're doing?
Well, that's a great question. The people that we're actually first responsible to that have just as high standards is the Texas Historical Commission. And they're, of course, the commissioners are based out of Austin. John now is the chairman. So they are the ones that are first line of fire. The World Heritage Group, they have the same type of parameters. So if I don't pass THC, I'm certainly not going to pass World Heritage. So, but that we send them letters. We sent them a letter recently just to let them know what's going on. Yeah. But one of the reasons we wanted George Skarmaeus and PDP as a part of that is he was the chairman of the ECOMOS committee, and that's the United States committee that makes recommendations to the UN for World Heritage. He understands what we have to do to be able to.
So this is the guy you hired here.
So yeah, George is an expert on World Heritage.
I'd hate to get all the plan done
and then say we can't do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's true.
We're not going to do that. Okay. We have a lot of people watching that all the time, and we get questions from them all. National parks are interested. ECOMOS is interested. Secretary of Interior is interested. If they tell us to do something that would go outside our guiding principles, we would give the designation back to them. But there's nothing in the guiding principles that violates that. I just don't see it happening.
Can the Alamo be split off from the other missions then?
It already has. The Alamo is owned by the state. The other parks are owned and managed by the National Park.
But as far as the heritage site is concerned, does it encompass them all or just?
It's all of them.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It won't happen. I can't imagine. Well, anything can happen, but I can't imagine that. It's very, very important to our citizens that we keep that.
Well, I want to thank Becky. I think she's done a tremendous job this evening. And certainly, I learned a lot. I learned that there's a lot more to learn. And I think that it's something that we will, in all probability, ask you to come back
sure.
in 6 months or 8 years.
Maybe we'll know more about what kind of
right.
surrounding-ish might be.
If you have any historical questions, ask her.
See what happens. You made me laugh, Brian. I'm dying now.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I know
was top secret.
Art has a copy of the presentation, but we also have everything available on our website as far as our public meetings. The last thing is Reimagine the Alamo is the name of our website. Reimagine the Alamo is the site, and that's you can put all of any questions and things like that. We read all of them, and we take note of all the questions and things that come. So Reimagine the Alamo is where you can find. We post all of the public meetings there. We take information there. You can sign up on a mailing list there. We try to keep everything in one place, so if you need feedback or if you have a question, you can find us there. Otherwise, I'm at the Alamo every day, so.
Where's the last slide?
That is the last slide.
It's supposed to say something else. Remember
the Alamo.
Remember the Alamo. Oh, that's right. You're going to have to
all right,
change it,
Brian.
Becky.
Thank you.
I'm done.
All right. Okay. Again, thank you very much, Becky.
Yes, sir.
Before we get into old business and new business, we really don't have a whole lot, we always open the floor to our councilman. Tonight we have our new councilman, John Courage, here. And John, if you'd like to take the floor, you're more than welcome to do so.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Well, as unaccustomed as I am to speak
You've
before a
spoken to
crowd,
this group before. Twice.
I appreciate the opportunity to just say a few words, and just to let you know that I've tried to hit the ground running, and it's been a very exciting experience. I put out a little note this morning on Twitter, and I said I'm pretty anxious about our meeting today because it was the first meeting to talk about the budget. And I want you to know that the priorities that I talked about were priorities that you had talked about and that people in District 9 had talked about. First and foremost, public safety. And you know, we really still have a police force that's undermanned, and I think all of our council members made it very clear to the mayor and to the city manager, we want to have a police force that's really up to fully staffed and is out there in the streets doing the job for us. We talked about transportation, and when we talked about transportation, obviously I said that I'm going to be looking very closely at the extension of 281 and what that's going to do to help relieve traffic in our area here. But we also talked about improving streets and traffic lights, and all those kinds of items were brought up for discussion so that the city understands that those are very important to us. Also talked about expanding VIA, and there were many council members who agree we really need to offer the alternative of more and more cars on the road by having VIA Metropolitan Transit, better bus service across the north side as well as other parts of the city. And there were a variety of things discussed, and the city manager talked to us about what they see for the forecast for our city budget. And so it's been a learning experience for me. There were several council members who sat through this before who were able to go ahead and kind of chip in that, you know, this process is not new, that there's a lot of things still to learn. But I want you to know that this next month, the city is going to put together a budget based on some of the comments and the recommendations that came from the city council. And then in August, we're going to start presenting that to you, the people, so that you understand what your options are when it comes to telling me how we're going to improve all of the services we provide and how the city's going to move forward. And so I think that that's about the best synopsis I can give you right now. I have hired full staff. I've hired an experienced chief of staff who's worked for other city council people, so even though I'm new, he's not. I do have several other staff people here. Today with me, I have two of them. You may have met Colt and Brian, and they work at our office. I talked to the city staff about moving the office. I just didn't feel comfortable with it being on the second floor of a bank building that isn't that easily accessible to everybody. But unfortunately, the council passed a resolution a couple of years ago that said any city council in the future office needed to be in a city-owned building. And we really don't have anything that would be suitable in the district other than libraries, and they're already using a lot of their meeting spaces and things like that. So I'm stuck there until we're able to go ahead and complete the new center that we're building that is going to be a senior center. It's also going to be a constituent service center. And when that's finally built, I'm going to go ahead and, if I'm still your councilman at that time, it may be about 3 years down the line, we'll certainly want to relocate the office to that. But I welcome your concerns being expressed to me. The best way to contact me right now is because I haven't got a card yet, and I also don't even remember my phone number. I've got to look it up. But go to the city of San Antonio and look up District 9. And there you'll find our phone numbers for our district office, for our downtown office. I've got a very sharp secretary. Her name is Monique. She's real good at passing things on to me. And I just want to let you know I'm excited about serving you. I'm committed to serve you so that we can continue together to work to improve the quality of life for all of us and everybody who lives in District 9. So I thank you for the opportunity to say hello and introduce myself.
Who's the chief of staff?
Yes.
Who's your chief of staff?
His name is Derek Roberts.
Derek.
As a matter of fact, he's on vacation this week. Hopefully, he'll be back by Wednesday. Yes.
I think the phone numbers for the...
It stayed the same. Yeah, if you had it before. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to ask about the constituency. Is it either of these gentlemen?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Chief of constituency?
Chief of constituency.
Oh, well, you know, I haven't established a person who is going to be the chief person for constituent service.
The two gentlemen
But
here.
what I have told all my staff is it's all of our job to be constituent service providers.
Are these two gentlemen you introduced?
They both are, yes, they both do constituent service. All of my staff will be constituent service. We may find someone who's extremely good at it that may be overseeing the whole effort, but right now, myself included, we are all constituent service. Yes?
Councilman, Kevin was here earlier. He talked about we're going to start the interchange on the first quarter.
Yes.
And now we're in the third quarter. There's no equipment or no roads there. And I'm just asking, can you find out for us and let us know when we're going to start work on the north interchange?
I'll tell you what, I'll let Art know next week.
Okay.
I'll let Art know next week, and I'll give a report on it at the next meeting.
Super.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me that. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to stay and answer any other questions when you leave.
Although on the agenda it says old business, none. At our last meeting, I very briefly mentioned, because we were having a candidate forum, that I had put together a synopsis of the 85th legislative session and the bills that didn't pass, and all those that we're really concerned about that we were watching. None of them, fortunately, did pass, and none of them are on the governor's list of topics that will be introduced in the special session. That synopsis is out on the sign-in table. I printed some more copies of it if you're interested. The next meeting of the District 9 Neighborhood Alliance will be held here on July 26th, and our speaker will be a representative from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Very good segue to what John was talking about as far as transportation being one of the key issues in both our district and the city. The Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, as you probably are aware, is the entity which controls the federal and state highway funds and allocates them and prioritizes them. And they're in the process of coming up with a new 20-year plan, which they're going to talk to us about next time.
Can you get Kevin to come and talk to us?
Kevin is the new chief, chair, I should say. He is not going to be the individual I invited to present, but I will certainly invite him to come and participate. Any other items or announcements for this august body? For those of you that are guests and are not members, on the sign-in table, I also have a letter of introduction and an application form. We do have 2 tiers of membership, actually 3 tiers of membership. A membership which you must be a representative from your HOA or POA and be appointed by them. You don't have to be necessarily on the HOA or POA board, but the board must appoint you to be a voting member. A individual membership, and anyone that lives in District 9 can be an individual member, or an honorary member, and all our past council people are honorary members of the Alliance. That said, we would welcome you. Excuse me, John?
Art, may I just have another? I've neglected to say to any of you, and I know a lot of you are leaders in your associations, I would welcome the opportunity to visit with every homeowners association, residents association that's part of the D9 Alliance. So if you have an opportunity to let me know when your meeting is, and if you'd like to invite me, I'd welcome an opportunity to come and talk with you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements before I adjourn? Patrick?
If anybody's interested in the Charter Resolution Committee, that process is going through right now. They finished their last, I don't know if you announced this or not before, but they have finished their last public session, but they are still taking input. And if you have an interest in that, we have 3 proposals submitted, and that include transparency, more civic involvement, and greater transparency on bond packages. And so if you have an interest in that, the city does have 5 different things that they are presenting, if I can. They're proposing, so far what they're considering is city council terms and elections to move them to November, change council terms from 2 to 4 years, and still having 8 years as the term limit. And then planning commission to transition to appointment by district rather than 9 at-large members, changing the rules on ethics board's appointment process. There's a housing bond where the city can get involved in housing, public affordable housing, and then council residency. And so if you have an interest in that, we are actually submitting proposals to the Charter Review Commission on that.
Can you email that to Art?
Yes.
Let me go 5 minutes to Art.
Yep.
Okay. There's no other announcements. We are adjourned. See you next month. Thank you for coming.
Thank you now that you didn't matter.